Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Hank, for the invitation, for letting me speak again. I was here last year. Looking into the audience, I see a lot of familiar faces. I see a lot of new faces also. It's a record attendance. And Hank introduced me shortly. I'm Christian Riege, Senior Vice President Software Development for Riege Software. And we do software, operational software for freight forwarders. So for the people who are not in the room, as we saw yesterday, 6,000 freight forwarders and 5 are here. So that's less than 1 per mil. So, okay, I have 15 minutes and I will divide it into 3 parts. First, I want to talk what is Cargo Digital Connect or Cargo Connect, how it's shortened here. Then I want to give a brief overview of the following 2 talks, which will be by Tahir and Kunal, who give an exemplary of what we've been working on. And then I will give a brief example that everybody here is well aware of, I know. I talked to a lot of people yesterday, everybody knew it. And what happens if you do not collaborate together, if you do not network, if you hide behind your walls and you do not go out. So the Cargo Digital Connectivity Working Group, it's a reanimation actually of the CCS working group. And the last time the CCS working group got together was at the end of the 90s. Who was already in the industry end of the 90s here? 20%. So after 20 years, Tahir had the great idea, hey, let's start this again, let's get together, let's talk, let's create an industry forum for the participants to get together and simplify things, network, exchange data, exchange of messages in the meaning of the simplifying the business strategy that IATA is deploying. So the group consists of different parties. There's airlines, there's IT providers like us, there's CCSs, and it's a very inhomogeneous group for the development of standards, yet we have to do it. And it's very hard within the group to work together. It's successful, but you see where everybody is standing. And well, we have to work together. We have to put our individual interests on the backside and focus on the common interests to get the community forward. So one of the examples of the conflicts that we have is in Montreal. We have a secretary, which is Tahir, but we did not agree upon a chairman within the group because of commercial standpoints. Let's phrase it like this. Okay, and one of the big issues is how do we include the forwarders? Yesterday, Thorsten from Lufthansa Cargo said at the e-AWB penetration is at 53.6% after 7 years. And that is not something to write home about. It's quite low. So how do we get the other 47%? How do we reach them? If you look at air cargo by volume, well, it's actually tonnage. The top 10 forwarders have less than 20% of the market. So 80% of the market is with the rest, with the 5,990 something that are still left. And of those, we as a full service provider for them, we provide them with a full software stack. They have nothing on their computer, so we are software as a service from the cloud. They do not have IT departments. They have micro IT departments. They have one guy who orders the computers, who installs the operating system, and then that's it. There's no one you can talk to as an airline or so and say, hey, give me your data. They go like, what? And you actually have to talk to us or your CCS provider to do that. And that is very, very important if you want to get the others on board, because you're not really talking their language. They do freight forwarding. There are no IT companies. If we have a lot of clients who are like 2, 3 people shops, they operate out of the basement with a phone and a computer. And that's all of their forwarding logistics operations. They outsource everything. And these are the guys that you have to onboard, that have to be enabled to actually do that. And that process of onboarding, that is hard. So that is just a small overview of what we are doing, what we're working on. The first issue that we tackled, Tahir will present the details in the next session, which is, I think it's called EPIC. I will not go into the acronym. Tahir, that's Tahir's session. And afterwards, Kunal from Qatar will give an explanation of the proof of concept that has been implemented and that we have overcome the challenges and got everybody working together despite the difficulties that I lined out. So the status quo which we have today is if I want to connect a forwarder to an airline, I have to talk to a CCS. Or we, as their software provider, talk to the CCS. The good thing is the whole process is electronic. And the bad news is, by electronic, I mean Excel sheets, PDFs, and emails between humans. So signing up a forwarder with an airline doesn't take 4 minutes, it doesn't take 4 hours, it doesn't take 4 days. It takes 4 to 6 weeks. So the turnaround time that we had with the cargo, 6 days, looks quite attractive if it takes me 4 to 6 weeks to get somebody going, just to get the e-AWB, the communication going. And I mean, we live in the digital area, and this should not be that complicated. And if you look at it, the technological approach, this is simple. It's a digital phone book in a single standardized format, compatibility to differing solutions across the industry. This is easy. I mean, hard is what Ryan from was Airspace Technologies yesterday presented. The routing, the 30,000 routes that explode, that just grow exponentially, that's hard. This is simple. I mean, from a technical perspective, we talked about it in the group. This is over within a day or two. Everybody agrees, okay, we do it like this. And that's easy. What's difficult, the real difficult part, is putting that into the business organization. The organizational changes. What are the people going to do who are not going to answer the emails to coordinate all the data exchange? Or how do we get different parties working together? Everybody sits there, has his own little territory with the guard dogs so that the competition stays out and your customers stay in. Or you have a nice little castle and you have a moat, and the moat serves both to keep the attackers out as well as keep the citizens in. Don't let them see the other castles. They might be as nice as yours, so they might even be nicer. And that is very, very difficult to overcome, this castle moat thinking. So what happens if you build a large moat? Well, if you look at the telecom industries, the carriers, it was incredibly hard in the 90s and in the early 2000s to change from carrier A to carrier B. They made it difficult because you could not take your phone number. So if you got to a new carrier, you got a new phone number. It's a complete nightmare. You have to tell everybody in your phone book, hey, I have a new number. That process takes years because people will still have your old number, they will have forgotten the message, they can't contact you. It's an absolute nightmare. Then somebody came along, the regulation within the EU, and they said, hey, this should be free. This should be a service that you provide. So we regulate you. You do this, or you don't get a license. Same with the roaming fees. That was a real revenue stream of the carriers. That was billions of euros. And the EU said, or the regulatory body said, well, we can't cut your revenue stream from $1 billion to 0 in a year, but we will do it gradually over 5 years. And today, I'm here in Switzerland. I can call everybody. It's my local tariff. I can use the internet. It's my local tariff. People here from the US or from Australia, they know how expensive it is with the roaming. Like you get, I think I was in the US last week, and it was for 50 kilobyte of data, they wanted 50 euro cent. 50 kilobyte. These days, that's not even an email. Other examples of here, in the banking industry, also the banks didn't like it, but now there's an interchange of data between different banks possible, regulated by the EU. Banks have to implement it or they don't get a license. Very simple rules. That's what happens if you build a moat and you really put it up defend, and then some regulatory body comes along and regulates you. Now, IATA can't do regulations. They can do recommended practices, but that's about it. But maybe somebody else will come along. And the question is whether you keep that and wait for somebody to tear down your moat or to drill a hole in your wall, or you actually look at your castle and say, hey, people want to stay here because my site is greener, my grass is greener, I have the nicer flowers, I have the nicer apartments, and I can show them, hey, you can go there, but you know, the grass is kind of shabby, the driveway is not that nice, and this is much better. So what actually is your unique selling proposition, unique selling point, the USP, that is your service, and it's not something, some commodity that you provide. And again, coming back to the beginning, we have conflicting interests. It's a matter of perspective. Some people say, hey, I'm really afraid that people will, that what I have, I will lose because there's competition and there's a free market. You can freely roam between different providers. And there's a second perspective which says, well, it would be better if we enforce lively partnerships, if there's collaboration, even if there is competition on the business level. It's a matter of framing the problem, because only the frame defines what is outside and what is inside. Okay, let's get to the real-world example. The Chinese customs incident. In November of 2017, Chinese customs declared that from June 1st, 2018, they require a business identifier, the VAT number or the local Chinese number, on every address on the air bill. Who was affected by that? Yeah, I thought so. Who was happy about the whole situation? One. You're a freight forwarder. Why were you happy? Opportunities. Interesting. Okay. For everybody else, it was a nightmare. For the airlines, it was a nightmare. For other freight forwarders, it was a nightmare. And for us as an IT service provider, it was a nightmare. And I bet for all of the other IT service providers, all of the other CCSs, it was a nightmare. Let's look at what happened. So end of 2017, there's the decree comes out, and they say, well, 1st of June, this is going to go live. So everybody gets busy by, I think, beginning of May, as is usual, because as long as there's still months to go, hey, why should we start? This is not coming. Maybe something will change. So by end of May, IATA has a proposal of how to put the data fields into the e-AWB bill. And we adopted that. That's 28th of May, and it becomes effective 1st of June. So for us, that meant, okay, we have to do the necessary changes in our software and roll that out to all of our customers within 4 days, which, as people experienced with software rollout know this is quite a challenge. And then one thing that happened is that we had one airline who said, we don't care about the specifications from IATA, we do our own. That was fun, because then we had to do 2 implementations, one for airline A and one for everybody else who was doing the IATA. Well, we put that into effect, and it was working quite okay. And then on 21st of June, 3 weeks later, we discover that 2 airlines just refused the new codes that have been defined by IATA. So, big surprise. What do we have to do? Well, luckily, we know over a forwarder of ours, who's in the room. Yeah, thanks, Klaas. We had a contact with them. When we talked to them, and they were like, yeah, well, you have to do this. And then, okay, we did more programming with them. On 14th of July, the IATA resolution becomes effective. And again, 15th of July, Airline B still refuses them. So you were not able to transfer any electronic airway bills to them. They would just not accept the valid messages as defined by IATA. And on 20th of August, we got a notification, not from the airline, but from the forwarder, hey, you can now really work with the airline, and you can remove your workaround, and they accept the official messages. And Airline C still refuses the new codes up to this date, and for us, there's no real contact into them. They send an informational letter to their forwarders, which is from the sales department. If we call the sales department, they're like, yeah, well, we got this from our technical department, we have no clue. Do you have a contact? No. Okay. So no e-AWB bill for this airline up until this date, because it's just impossible to do. So everybody involved in this really get caught with their pants down. And you don't want to get caught with your pants down, except maybe in a Skype call, sitting, working from home. Now everybody knows. So, just a simple call to action: overcome the selfhood. Don't think that your castle is the nicest, or you have to pretend that it's the nicest. And I know that it's hard to go along this way, but it doesn't really help if you think that you have to isolate yourself to keep your business. And we should all pull together, work together, and not drift apart. And I would like to close this with a quote from Henry Ford. We verified this a couple of times, that it's really from him, because the one with the horses and the faster horses is not. It's that coming together is a beginning. This is a beginning. We all came together. Staying together is progress. I'm seeing a few faces again. That's good. And working together then is the success. And with this, I would like to close. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hank.